And welcome back to another episode of Tribal Council Chat, talking about our finale preview for Survivor 48. We have a special guest on Tegwyth. Welcome to Tribal Council Chat.
Yes,
Thank you guys so much for having me.
it's very glad to have you. We've gotten to talk with you a little bit. We're in contributors on that chat BCC group, but
Yep.
nice to get to talk face to face.
I know, I'm so excited, and I really like this episode, so I feel like there's a
Yeah,
lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's an episode that didn't have the predictable thing happen for once.
For once, yes.
I haven't hated this season because Joe and Eva were kind of two people I liked before the season started because I'm a big hockey fan and I saw she likes hockey. But I haven't hated it because the people I like are winning, but it has been really predictable until this week.
yeah,
Oh yeah, and I haven't. I actually have liked it too because I think the big thing that a lot of people I think are taking this episode as a or this season, pardon me, as like it's really bad because you have to wait in between. So like I like to think about like one of my favorite times ever watching a TV show was when I watched WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was watching that live, and like in between of watching WandaVision, I would go online and the like speculation and talking about what was going to happen, all of that built up excitement. Because excitement breeds more excitement usually.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
But what is happening this season is instead the initial reaction of people right after the episode is, oh, that was like, it's fine, it was bad, it was whatever, and then it just snowballs into something else and people are even more upset about what they're seeing, whereas I feel like on a rewatch, on a binge, this season is going to be really really good, and I think when people like
mm-hmm.
look back at it, I think it'll like time will give it some breathing room, and I think people will like it more like down the road.
That's a great
yeah, it
point.
makes sense. So before we get going, Tegwyth, do you want to tell our audience about what you do in the community?
Sure. Yeah. So I have a TikTok that is devoted to Survivor, TikTok, and Instagram. I commentate on there. I chat about the show. I try to make funny videos if I can, but I talk about strategy. But I've been doing it since 2021. I started it for season 41, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love doing it.
Nice.
Nice,
Yeah, I love it. How long have you guys been doing
excellent.
the podcast?
Two going on 2 years now. We
We
started. Bruce
recorded our
messaged me during the 43, and we've been talking about it for a while, but I was in a state where I was a bit intoxicated on a cruise ship and said, want to actually start this, and it happened.
we
Love.
recorded our first episode that like same week 44 ended.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So if you guys had to like rank your like how this season currently is falling in the new era, would it be up on the higher end or would you think it would go on the lower end?
For me, it would be on the lower end, probably above 41, maybe around where 42 is.
Hmm.
I mean, 41, I'm just a bit bitter over that twist, but still.
You, Danny, and everybody else.
Yeah, I came in. Bruce and I both came into the season and picked Sydney to win. So
Oof. Oof. Yeah, that's a hard one.
yeah,
My I would say like lower middle. Like I wouldn't say like last, second to last, but like it's not my favorite new era season is 45. Partly because like preseason I picked D to win, and then she played the best game of the new era, so I appreciate
Hmm.
that very much and being right. I love that cast. I wouldn't put this on the level of like 45, 46, 47,
yeah,
but I wouldn't say it's last or second to last on my list either. I don't have a full list thought out. 41 probably last. I remember the least from it.
yeah,
Yeah. 41 is also one of those seasons where everyone, I think the producers were trying to, throw things out the wall and see what stuck, like what
yeah,
worked, what didn't work. They experimented all that stuff. And so it kind of ends up not turning out well, even though I think Erica played a really great game. And I
Yeah.
think that, she lucked out, but then used that luck to her advantage. And, but yeah, I just think, it's not one of those where I'm like dying to rewatch 41,
yeah,
I think 41 also had that culture shock because we've had the difference between like old school Survivor and new school Survivor, and then New Era was just completely its own thing.
Yeah.
And
Oh
41
yeah,
was our first exposure to that, and we don't like change at first. So
It's definitely one
exactly.
that I would probably should though give another watch to because, like you say, Bruce, everything kind of hit all at once. And I know I was at a viewing party for the first episode of 41. I flew down to New York for it that day, so I didn't get to actually see the whole show in its pure form. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, what is this?
No, yeah. A rewatch is always it. I think sometimes you don't really want to do it, but I think a rewatch really does help put the show into perspective because you don't have that time in between. It's kind of like a 26-day versus a 39-day game.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't have that downtime in between. You don't have time to really, all of that good stuff. And yeah, definitely need to rewatch as much as you possibly can. But it's just, sometimes hard to get yourself to do that. But all that to say, I do think that 48 is going to be really good on a rewatch, on a binge, or whatever it is, and not being surrounded by like the negativeness that is the online, which is right now. And I'm not saying that I think that every single move of this season is great. I think that some of them are not going to be, the most television, like cinematic. They're not the best for television. But that being said, someone is still going to win the season. Somebody's going to. This gameplay is going to work for one person, and we're going to find out who that person is next week.
And that is a perfect spot to move into the episode because we are going to start going through each, as we do in our finale preview here, go through each player that's in the finale one at a time and talk about both why we think that they have a chance to win and why they won't win.
Fab. Who are we starting with?
Let's go alphabetical and start with Eva.
Amazing. What do you guys think of Eva? Do you think that Eva is gonna take the cake, win the game? How do you think she could do it? I'm thinking that she's gonna be a 0 vote finalist. Sorry, Bruce.
I could see that. Like I said, her and Thomas were my two favorites preseason because she's a hockey fan, and Thomas apparently knows Olivia Rodrigo, who's one of my favorite singers. But I'd like to see her win. She's got a really cool story. She's got a fun personality. Game-wise, I really don't know what she's done that wasn't like either a group decision or Joe or Shaheen coming up with a plan first that she went along with.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to answer in terms of why Eva will win. I'd agree with you, Tegwyth, that she is just getting that 0 vote finalist edit at this point. I think she had a great chance to win maybe 3-4 weeks ago, but any potential math towards a final 3 that involves her winning just isn't there anymore with the 4 players left in the game.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that like she has to sit next to the perfect people, and I don't really know that. Like, I think she would have to sit next to Mitch, and then maybe say a lot of people are really upset with Joe. Maybe if she sits next to Joe, she can get some of those votes where, maybe that would be the main scenario where I see Eva could win. But I think that, we heard it in this last episode, and the best way to get a gauge on how people understand how the players in the game are viewing other people is what they say, literally what they say. And Shaheen going, we can't take out Eva because, she's just not gonna, no one's gonna vote for her, or however he said it this episode. And Kyle didn't disagree. And obviously it could have been edited, it could have been changed, but I just think that what the players are seeing is somebody who is a number 2 in a very tight duo, who, if she goes to the end, unless people are really upset with David and she sits next to David, I just don't really see that she's going to be getting those votes, because if everyone sees her as a GOAT, as a 0 vote finalist, as somebody who can be brought to the end, that's probably what's going to happen. I'm viewing, and this is another 41 reference, she's kind of like Xander, where I think that we're seeing maybe something a little bit different than what the players out there are seeing, because I think a lot of people think that she has the win equity, and I just don't think she does right now from the jury's perspective.
Yeah.
She's given us a lot this season, but it was all like in the first third of the game.
Yeah. I love what you said. She has to be next to the right people, and I don't think it's there. Like our finale preview last season, I remember saying whoever sits next between Teeny and Sue at the end wins.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Mitch. I don't think that second person is there though.
Yep, I agree.
And it's also really interesting that you said that there's a possibility if everyone was really angry at Joe, it almost works contrary to popular play, that it's to Eva's advantage to have her number one not on the jury simply because she needs that player there to win, as opposed to normally you would be like, yes, I want Joe to go at 4 because he'll go to the jury and campaign for her to win.
And I do think that would happen. I do think if Joe goes out, he would campaign for
Eva,
absolutely. Or at least he would vote for Eva, but I just don't think that anyone would switch their vote. Because so if Joe is out and Eva's on the jury, that means Kyle or Camilla is definitely there. And that means Mitch might be there. And if Kyle and Camilla are there, I think one of them is going to win.
Yeah. And I think Joe's kind of interesting because a lot of this season, he's been getting a really strong edit. I've seen Survivor Twitter and Facebook say he's getting the winner's edit so far this season. But David's going to be ticked off at him.
Mm-hmm.
And after the weird little interaction with him and Shaheen, where he's trying to feel Shaheen out if he's actually flipping without saying anything, Shaheen seemed upset. I wouldn't be surprised either way with Shaheen as a juror, but I mean, that's at least one, maybe 2 people that aren't happy with him. So
Yep. And I think it's a really hard game. I mean, I want to save this thought for Joe, so I'll keep on Eva. But sure. I think that there is if we're like doing a percentage, I think there is a 10% chance Eva could win, and I think that is a nice number. Whereas I think that say she plays her idol, she goes to 4, I think she's going to be picked to go to the end to be final 3, and I just don't see her winning. I think 10% is actually kind of generous.
I think if I was ranking them based on how likely I thought they would win, I'd probably have her at 4 and only have Mitch behind her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're going in alphabetical order, who's
that
next?
brings up Joe.
Joe, fabulous. Okay, I guess I could have said it.
The king of spelling.
Yes, God Fun Betrayal. Joe is a very interesting one because everyone is also saying that he is getting a winner's edit. I'm seeing that quite a bit. Everyone says it's so obvious. I don't think that Survivor likes to make things this obvious that casuals pick up on it and are like, it's obvious. I thought Rachel was a pretty obvious winner edit. So obvious in my mind that I was like, there's no way she's winning because it just seems like a very obvious edit. But I talked to my friends who were casuals and they weren't picking up on that. They were very excited that Rachel won, but they just weren't picking up on that. And I think
at least with where Rachel won too, you had this rivalry where you're like, whoever outlasts each other between Rachel and Genevieve will go on to win the game. But there was more competition there than we're getting this season.
I went into that final tribal expecting a Rachel blowout. Then final tribal happened, and I thought Sam had done enough to make it close, and I thought he might have stolen it. And then it was basically a unanimous vote, and then I was surprised again.
Yeah, Sam did a very good job. He gave Rachel a run for her money, I think. But I just think it's too obvious of an edit. It feels like the edit that Jesse was getting from season 43.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be because I think they want to paint him as Joe as this amazing guy who was robbed because he was such a big threat, because he's such a good guy and all of this other stuff. So I think there's still a good chance that he could win. I think he could make a couple of different combinations of people and could take the cake. But I just don't think that it's gonna. I think he's probably got a 40 to 50% chance of winning versus anything higher.
I could see him losing fire.
Me too.
Interesting.
I love the
firemen losing fire. Yeah, I've been thinking that for a while because obviously they play very different games. Jesse Got Fun Betrayal hard. Joe did not like Got Fun Betrayal, but my big thing about Joe is I never think that anyone should go in playing this kind of game. If you want to play a loyal game, absolutely do it. Should prove it to people by the actions, not by your words.
Yeah.
Because it's giving Mike Turner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are going to go there to the end and they're just going to say, yeah, you keep saying you wanted to play this loyal game, but clearly you did not play a loyal game because you got two of your closest allies out because you flipped.
Yeah. And it's actually funny that you bring up Mike, because 6 months ago we had Mike on for a finale of
recap last season.
Yeah, 47.
Yeah, and I love Mike. I think he's so fun. I think he's such a great character. And I love like when he lost the idol, like he's so funny. Or no, I don't think he lost the idol. I think somebody else lost his idol and they found it. But I think that just saying that you're going to play a loyal game, I think it's kind of impossible to do in Survivor. So when you say it, you're just digging your own grave.
Yeah.
Prove that you can. I think people will try to play a loyal game. Yeah. And I think that there are people who will be loyal. Kyle and Camilla are playing a very loyal game to each other.
Yeah.
But they're not saying like, look at me, I'm so loyal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Joe is doing a good job of that until getting tricked into turning on one of his top two allies this week.
I don't know. The David one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So it's interesting, Bruce, that you said that you could see him losing in fire. My take is that at 5, Joe is going to tie that group of 5 immunity wins, but it's not going to translate into votes.
I want to see the record tied. I said Kyle was either going to tie it or break it at one point last season, and that ended up not happening. But
yeah, I could totally see him. Yeah, I could totally see both Eva and Joe going to the Final 4. I could see them doing fire against each other. I could see Joe and Kyle going up against fire, doing fire against each other. Pardon me. But I could totally see Joe winning immunity next week and tying that Colby record.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mentioned fire. It feels like the person getting the big edit goes home and fire a lot. It was Jesse. It was Ricard wasn't fire. He went home at 5.
No, he went
home close. But it's
Liz.
Yeah.
Lauren Ashley Beck was 39, but still.
Yeah. It's strange.
Devin Pinto, wasn't it Devin Pinto that lost to Mike?
Yeah.
It's
the Sydney Gillen
comparisons are interesting too, because that's the only other time I remember the online fandom disliking a season this much during the new era.
Yeah, well, early 46 people weren't happy. Early 46 said that Survivor was over and dead, and that it'll never come back. But then it made up for it in the other in the second half. Whereas this one is the opposite. I feel like this one at the beginning they said this is the best Survivor we've ever seen, and then post marriage people are not happy.
Survivor Twitter is a bit of a roller coaster. It's both entertaining and completely exhausting.
Which I was saying recently. How you mentioned 46, that it kind of changed like that. I almost felt with this season like I was back to watching Island of the Idols, because in both of those seasons, I'm like everyone that I wanted to go for just went out pretty much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Island of the Idols was a very good cast, but also the pre-merge boots were brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy. The people that got voted out, it just kind of kept happening. And I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this season, and I think, Joe got an interesting edit also this episode. The editing is really weird, which is why I even more feel like he's not going to win. Because I think that if this is the edit for Joe, and it's he is getting a better edit than Boston Rob got in Redemption Island. I don't think that is the kind of thing they're trying to do now in the new era. Watch me eat my words and Joe win. But so how do you think Joe could win? Who do you think he has to sit next to in order to win?
I think Joe would have to sit with Eva and Mitch.
I don't know. I think if he sits next to Eva and Mitch, I could see Star voting for Mitch. I could see Cedric voting for Mitch. I could see I don't think David is ever going to vote for Joe. So
Yeah.
I think that David is voting for Eva. I also think that Shaheen feels a little bit betrayed by Joe. And I don't necessarily think that Shaheen thinks that Joe's game is that good. I could be wrong. So I could see Shaheen voting for Eva as well.
I guess the other possibility, too, would be completely flip that and hope that Kyle and Camilla both get votes.
Yeah.
I could see Shaheen going either way. Like, he definitely was perturbed with Joe after the weird, awkward conversation. But, I mean, a lot of times someone gets betrayed by their ally and then gives them the credit on the jury anyway. So I'm not going to be surprised no matter what with him. I think Chrissy, there's no way she votes for Joe.
Yeah.
Because her and Joe and David all went at it for a few tribals.
Yep, I think you're right. And I think that Joe's best chance is maybe sitting next to Kyle and Camilla.
Yeah.
Because I think Kyle and Camilla needs one of the other one to be sitting on the jury in order to back up their story. And so I think that Kyle and Camilla could argue and be like, no, I did that. No, I did that. No, that was me. No, that was me. And Joe can say, well, you guys knew that I was the biggest threat. Everyone saw me. I was, not immune one time. Everyone had a clear shot at me, but no one wanted to take that shot. And that's on you guys, but I'm still sitting here, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that might be his best chance, but I still don't think that the only thing that makes me think that maybe he's winning is just because of the sheer amount of screen time he's getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Which we'll only know if that translates to a win this week, and then we'll only know when it comes to the amount of screen time probably in the next year, 2-3 years to come as to whether they're giving us a win or they're giving us someone that they want on future seasons.
Right.
Because we've seen, notably, 2 examples I always go to, Aubrey and Russell, that you could have sworn were winning. Obviously, I'm biased in the case of one of them. But both of them came back for another season so quickly that they were almost building up that as opposed to focusing on the game at hand.
I think that's what they're doing. I think Joe is going to be coming back for 50. And I think that that's why Jeff said that this is one of his favorite seasons, because I think that Jeff really, really likes Joe. And I think that Jeff likes Joe's storyline, not just because he wins, because I don't think he does. I think he likes his storyline because Joe gets closure out there on the island. And I think Jeff really likes the humanity of Survivor. I think he likes the gameplay too, don't get me wrong, but I think he really likes it when people are human and have real epiphanies out there on the island. And I think that Joe is going to leave with his head held high, and the fact that he was able to do this for his sister, to basically reconnect in some way, feel for his sister, also have all these moments with Eva. And I think that's why Jeff likes the season so much, not because Joe is crowned the winner, but because Joe is maybe a better man for being on Survivor.
Yeah. And his whole deal is they want to cast interesting people first and foremost, so that goes along with what he wants exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so should we move on to Camilla?
Let's do it. I love Camilla. That's Charles for saying that. Huge Camilla fan right here.
Absolutely. I'm not sure whether she's going to win or not. It depends on who gets to the end, but I definitely think that she's probably, of this group, played the longest winning game and has an excellent shot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My preseason winner pick was Thomas, because on the EW questionnaire, he highlighted Sophie as a player he wanted to play like, and her winning game is super underrated, and that drew me. Once he went home, I said Camilla was going to win. I liked her game, and she was on my draft team. If either her or Kyle is at the end without the other one, I think that person probably wins, because they can take credit for all the moves both of them made.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they'll have somebody on the jury.
Yeah.
That's it.
Other than Guatemala, anytime one part of a duo gets to the end, the one at the end can claim it. Stephanie wasn't able to claim that everyone says Rafe made all the moves, but I don't need to get sidetracked on Guatemala again. But
well, Bruce, while you're there, ask Tegwyth the question we ask every guest.
Oh, yeah.
We have a tradition on this podcast.
In Guatemala.
Who would I have voted for in Guatemala?
Yeah, this is random. We just end up asking guests this a lot for some reason.
I don't know. I think Danny's game is a very, very good game. We just didn't get to see it because she didn't tell the producers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm somebody who I think I probably would have voted for Danny. I love Guatemala.
Sure.
Guatemala is one of my favorite seasons.
So underrated.
So underrated. I think that Brian Corden is the top of my list of players to bring back. I don't think he'll ever come back because I don't think he has enough name recognition, but I think he is such a smart player. The Bait Blake is just genius.
Yeah.
I love that season so much, but I think I would have voted for Danny.
Yeah, they're not a bad option.
No.
About a year and a half ago or so in an off season, because this is the one of the few seasons Booz and I disagree on in terms of who we would have voted for. We had a debate episode, and then we've been asking that question to every guest since.
Loved. Who would you both have voted
Danny.
for?
I said Steph. I just think from what I saw, she had more control of the game.
Yeah.
I'll find the YouTube link for that and send it to you after we're done recording.
Please do. I literally, I remember watching that, though, for the first time and being very confused by Danny's win because it was one of the earlier seasons that I had watched, so I didn't really know all the lore behind it, and I was very confused. I was like, but Stephanie's right there. And I feel like you ask me that on any day, my answer might change. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I do also love the scene of the sports reporter recognizing the quarterback trying to hide himself and not letting him hide himself was fantastic.
That whole season is just so good. And then also the fact that they're next to a body of water, but they're not allowed to swim in it or else they'll die.
But they got a pool. One of the coolest rewards.
One of the best rewards. I think that is one of the best rewards. Maybe it goes Great Wall of China. The Palaus, I love very memorable for me, swimming with the jellyfish. Yeah. It's a top reward for me. And then honestly, the pool is number 3. Yeah. I love that reward so much.
And coming back to Camila, because this started with jury and duos and I led to Guatemala because Stephanie and Rafe is the weird example that one person can't claim the duo moves. But if Kyle or Camila is at the end with the other one, I'm pretty confident saying they win. If they're both there, it gets dicey.
Yeah. I agree. And I think here's the thing. I think the best thing about this duo in particular is I think that Camila brings a very different good thing to this duo than Kyle does. They both have very distinctive strengths and both bring very distinctive things to the table. And I think that Camila has a very strong chance of winning if she sits next to basically anybody. I think that she is going to be able to really plead her case to the jury and really say, hey, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. And I think that Kyle is the kind of guy who is going to back it up because genuinely, I think their relationship is not transactional. Their alliance is not a transactional alliance, which I think a lot of alliances we see are, okay, I'll do this for you, you do this for me. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. And a transactional alliance, I don't think is coming from the same place as what Kyle and Camila have. That is just a friendship that turned into an alliance is what it seems.
Yeah, for sure.
And so because of that, I think that, and I've been wrong in the past. I truly think that if Camila is sitting there and Kyle is on the jury, it's going to be Tiffany and Kenzie. And it's going to be, yep. Oh, and don't forget this. And don't forget the time you did this. And remember when you lied about Shaheen having the idol 3 weeks before we actually really put that plan into motion? Remember when you did that? And I think that it'll really, really happen. Now, all of that being said, I just don't think that she's getting an edit that would translate into winning the game, which hurts my soul because I adore her. But she has really funny, quippy moments. We can tell that she's smart, but there's just something where they're editing it to make it seem like Kyle is 60% the brains and Camila is 40% the brains, which I do think it's an equal 50-50 relationship.
It is. You're right. Sorry.
I was going to mention Kyle when we were talking about how Joe's edit feels too obvious because Kyle's been coming on strong the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
Plan with Shaheen going home, the edit makes it seem like this was Kyle's plan he thought of. And we've gotten about 30 confessionals a week of him being in the middle between both groups and having the option to go either way every week. So I think he's coming on strong. He's probably, I would say, the favorite at this point. But if he's not at the end and Camilla is, she gets to claim credit for everything they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the two of them are going to have to turn their guns towards each other next week, which will be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that the difference is, I agree, it's a 50-50 relationship, but we've just, and this is, I guess, kind of going into Kyle, but that's where we'd end up anyway. Kyle's just got so much more content lately, and we've also got that personal story from Kyle a few weeks ago that we haven't seen with Camilla.
Yeah.
And I think that leads them at least into trying to show us that, like, if it's not going to be Joe, who we've seen the most of, Kyle's right there as the opposing alliance's number one.
Speaking of, we have gotten some awesome stories this season between Kyle and Joe with this last episode and his sister. Like, the backstories have been so cool to watch this season.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Got a whole scene of it on the New Purple Tribe when they were swapped too.
I think that was one of the most memorable moments for me of the season. I loved that moment. And I think that the Kyle and Camilo duo is going to go down in history books as one of the best duos of Survivor, period. It's going to be in the same breath of Malcolm and Denise. It's going to be in the same breath of, Rob and Amber. I really, truly believe that. Yeah. And I think that one of them is going to win this season. I really am 92% confident that one of them is going to win this season. You can clip that when I'm wrong next week and Mitch wins or something.
I will tell our friend that does the TikTok clips to do that.
When I'm wrong next week, let's see. But I think that Camilla has played an absolutely brilliant game and used her strengths and really used that relationship with Kyle in a very, very good way. And I, again, truly believe that because this allyship is not transactional, I think that Kyle will go to the end and really vouch for her on the jury if she is there at Final 3 and he is not. I think the only way that she's sitting there and does not win, truthfully, is if Kyle is also there. I think that any other kind of combination, I think that she could pull out the W.
The great thing with them as a duo is, like, all the great duos you mentioned, the people that were out there knew they were a strong duo.
Yeah.
Even on this season, you've got Joe and Eva that are a super strong duo, and everyone knows it. I don't remember the last time, if ever, we had a duo like this that was this tight the whole time, and nobody knew about it.
It feels like Big Brother. It feels like a Big Brother alliance. It's much easier to pull off a secret alliance on Big Brother than it is on Survivor, and I don't think it's 100% secret. But like the fact that they're not as seen as other things, it feels like a weird Big Brother alliance.
Which gives them so much more. Which gives them so much more that they can use if one of them is in Final Tribal Council that the jury is not going to be expecting and have almost like moments we saw with Marianne.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, there was at least one duo, New Era, that we, the audience, didn't know was a duo because 41 got to the end and Erica was, me and Heather were so close the whole time. And we got like half a confessional from Heather the whole season.
I know.
I know. But like one that the players didn't know about. This just is so cool to me. Like that.
Yeah.
It's the only one we've seen catch on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gone now. So it'll be interesting to see people's reactions if one of them gets to the end and reveals that.
Absolutely. I'm excited for that. Hopefully it happens.
Unless
should we move to Kyle then?
Eva Mitch final.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it will
either.
be. I think if honestly, if anybody, I think that I think it could be. No, I don't think that's gonna happen. Sorry, I got distracted. Should we move to Kyle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle is who I think is really going to win the season.
Same.
Yeah, he's the favorite, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and I went to an episode. I watched an episode live a couple of weeks back, and in that episode when I watched it, I just went, yeah, Kyle is going to win this season, and I just felt it in my gut, and I didn't want to admit it. I said it's either going to be Kyle, Shaheen, or Joe. Kyle, Shaheen, or Joe, over and over again. But just in my gut, I just he is getting this edit where he's always a part of things, even if it's not his move. We're getting his opinion on the move. He's always he's got the hand in the cookie jar in a good way all this time. We get the backstory. We get just a little bit of everything about him. Multiple backstories again with all of that stuff, and you see how it's hard for him because, he's close with these people. So he's got these emotional bonds, but then he's also very strategic and is having a good time. Like, he is a multi-dimensional player. And I think they want winners to be multi-dimensional and not just one thing in this new era. And they're really showing that, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, again, if Kyle sits next to pretty much anybody, I think he wins. I think he has the best chance of losing if he's next to like Joe and Camilla. But I think that if Kyle sits next to pretty much anybody, I truly believe that he wins the game.
I think the only way he loses is if Camilla's the end next to him, because I think there's a chance they cancel each other out and the third person ends up getting the votes.
I think it depends on who the third person is. I think if Mitch is the third person, I think that one of the two of them will still win. If it's Joe, I think Joe could win.
If it's Eva is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, Eva's the one that I'm not totally sure about. But yeah, I don't think that they want to go to the end together.
No, and I think the preview for the finale at the end of the episode showed that.
Yep.
He's the strong favorite in my mind. His edit's been picking up a lot of steam lately.
Absolutely.
And he's been able to play the middle really well the whole time. And he's had the option to flip either direction the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, though, too, because we haven't seen it yet, that sometimes we often, at least amongst people I know, get talking about that split vote scenario, but it never tends to play itself out. I've always wondered if, I'm sitting in Canada right now, but in the US, that things is just so one way or the other way. When it just comes to life, that the jury will make that decision amongst themselves, maybe. But we don't. I'm always confused as to why even going back to winners at work, that we don't get just situations where multiple people are getting votes in a final three. It almost defeats a final three.
I think it goes to the jury wanting to be right.
Exactly.
But I will say we've got some of those recently. Kenzie. D was a 5-3 vote, I believe, or a 4-3-1.
That was that close.
Yeah, it was really close, and it was with one of his one of her closest allies, aka Austin. She had two number ones, Julie and Austin. Austin was one of those number ones, and it was a pretty close vote, almost a tie.
Yeah.
And then again with Kenzie, a 5-3 vote there. Obviously, Kenzie and Charlie weren't allies. But that's still kind of a close vote. So I do think that people in the new era or just in general, they want to make sure that they voted for the right person, I think, most of the time. But I think that this could be the season. If it's the right three people at the end, we could see maybe even a tie vote.
Makes sense.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Ryan, my partner's current conspiracy theory is that it's a tied vote between Kyle and Joe. And Eva is the third, and then Eva is the tie-breaking vote, and votes for Joe.
What's funny is Ghost Island, the tie vote season, is the first season I saw.
Whoa!
So that was that's a fun introduction to the show.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And a big difference. The first season I saw was being 7 years old when Richard beat Kelly.
Iconic. My first season I watched live was David versus Goliath.
Nice.
Right around
that wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't my first season that I watched, but my first season I watched live.
Nice.
Yeah. I watched 36 through 40 live, and I think I watched one on DVDs. And then during the pandemic, used CBS All Access at the time, now Paramount Plus, to just binge through everything.
Oh yeah. I got through about 10 seasons before I watched Dave versus Goliath, and then I pretty much finished all of the shows within a year of me starting them. All of the seasons starting me.
Nice.
Yeah, I was committed.
That's fantastic. I love that.
I guess anything to add about Mitch last? We haven't talked about him much, but
Mitch, I think he played a good social game. I will give him that. I think he has made some bonds. I do think I could see him getting a vote. I really think, he bonded with Star, teaching her how to swim or helping her to get better at swimming. We saw him and Cedric bond at their beach. I think there's a world in which he gets 1 or 2 votes if he makes it to the end. I just don't see a path for him winning.
I think the fact that he made exactly. I think the fact that he made the finale, despite at least the early story being him and Charity being together, and that he's still here after losing his number 1 is quite the accomplishment.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I think a lot of the fandom is expecting him, if he gets to the end, to get 0 votes. I actually agree with you. I think he gets 1 or 2 because we saw a quote from like Shaheen or someone in this past episode saying, "Oh, Mitch is so great and likable. No one wants to sit at the end next to him." And I think this might be a case like a Cassidy, like a Xander, where the fandom is convinced how someone's going to do at Final Tribal, and they just have it wrong.
Yep, very true.
I don't think he wins, but I don't think people are giving him enough credit.
Yeah, Liz also very similarly. I think people on her season were slightly more scared of her than the fans were, and same thing also with Caroline on 47. Caroline was really under-edited, but at the time, you talk to any player, she was gonna win the season. If it wasn't, if Rachel hadn't have won, then they would have gotten out Rachel at that one. But Caroline was just such a good social player. Everybody liked her. People thought that she was just going to win. So, they do edit things like that.
Yeah. I caught on to Caroline. My preseason winner pick was Tiana because of she talked a lot about being willing to work with people you don't like, and then proceeded to vote people out that she didn't like. But once she went home, I said Caroline was going to win, and that lasted for a while. But
all right. So getting into how we see the finale going, who does everyone have in 5th place?
Oh, this is.
I'll just go out Camilla. Interesting. I'm going to say Mitch here.
Either Kyle or Camilla. I think this is the round that they're going to have to point their targets at each other and just best person wins. And I think Kyle's more connected to the Joe Eva group, so it probably is Camilla now that I'm talking this out.
Brett, who did you say?
Mitch.
Mitch.
I think this is a spot where Mitch just becomes the safest vote because you're going to have potentially someone winning. Well, you will have someone winning immunity. If it's not Eva, she'll have an idol. If it is Eva who wins immunity, Joe could have that idol. Throwing your votes on Mitch just seems to be the way to make sure you get to fire.
That makes sense.
I can see that.
I think it's Camilla because Kyle and Camilla are going to go at each other, and Kyle's more connected to the rest of them.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, they kept saying Mitch this time, Camilla next time. And I think that it'll be maybe, yeah. I just feel like I don't want it to be Camilla to be completely, clear, but I think it's Camilla.
Yeah.
All right, moving on from there, who wins final immunity and who beats who in fire?
I think Mitch loses fire. The rest of it is what I'm trying to figure out.
I think Kyle wins immunity, puts himself in fire against Joe. Joe loses fire.
Ooh,
that would be fun.
Underwood route.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say the reason why I think that is there's a moment where Shaheen says, "Imagine beating fire against a fireman," and there was a look, like a glimmer of an idea in Kyle's eyes. And I just was like, interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I love a hot take. I love a conspiracy theory. So I love going out on a limb and being wrong. So, nice. I'm doing that here.
My favorite glimmer in the eye kooky idea is still Adam wanting to play the podium as the idol. That always makes me smile for some reason. But
Well, I mean, if he had been right, he would be going down as one of the smartest Survivor players of all time.
like,
exactly.
I wasn't even rooting for him. Like he was on the tribe with like Rob and Parvati and Ethan, who I was rooting for, even though I hadn't seen any other seasons yet. But I kind of wanted that to happen just because of how crazy it would be.
I loved it.
Australian had an idol and tribal one season, so
No, and Adam's a huge international Survivor fan as well, which is why he thought of that. So no, I think it's a genius. Yeah.
But sorry, I get sidetracked. Talking about like crazy idea, glimmer in your eye made me think of that one.
I am gonna say in this spot that this is where Joe wins to get his 5th immunity.
Yeah.
And Kyle beats Camilla in fire.
Okay. I can totally see that.
And I think that's what I was getting at about that edit for Joe being potentially in a future season. Joe, I get the sense, would be willing to just take Eva to the end, as opposed to trying to split up Kyle and Camilla at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what I was about to say. Joe wins the 5th immunity and then takes Eva because that's his number one, and he's like been riding with her the whole time. And then Kyle beats Mitch in fire, and then Kyle ends up winning.
Nice.
Yeah, I could see all of that. My other crazy tin hat conspiracy theory was Eva and Joe making fire against each other, and then Joe gives up his spot, and Eva goes to the end, so he gives up his spot for her because he said a bunch of time preseason like he would give up his game for her. He said it more than once. So that is my other. I don't think that's really going to happen. That's my real crazy off the wall theory. But
he kind of did in the last immunity challenge when Eva got called out for using her feet for leverage. Joe dropped like right after that. I don't know if
that was the reward. That was the reward.
Yeah, reward. Sorry, but
oh yeah. I think that was not because Eva was out. I think it was because he saw who else was in the challenge, and I think he saw that they were going to take him no matter what. So why then have to burn bridges by choosing people and choosing from people in his alliance? Because I think he knew he was going to go no matter what.
Winning the family reward is not always a good thing.
Yeah.
Usually I think it's a bad thing.
All right. So that gives, I guess, all of us our final 3 at some point. Of the players that are in your final 3, who do you have for 2nd, 3rd?
Kyle 1, Joe 2, Eva 3.
Eva 3, Mitch 2, Joe Kyle 1.
Kyle 1, Joe 2, Eva 3.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Bruce, on. Just 2 seconds.
Yeah, so I forgot you had stuff.
Yeah, not a problem. One more thing before we wrap up. I was listening to your podcast earlier in the week, Tegwyth, and you were talking quite a bit about a potential Second Chances season. So I thought we'd flip our traditional game on its head for this episode and wrap up with old school, new era. At least in this podcast, we tend to use heroes versus villains as the dividing point. One man and one woman that all 3 of us would want to see play for a second time.
Okay. From each era?
Yeah, from each era.
For second chances or a second time? So is it somebody who's only played once?
Yeah, someone who's only played once.
Okay. I know I have 2 that I would like to propose.
Go ahead.
Sean Rector is my number 1 for old school. I love him very much, and I'm really sad that he was most likely cut from 50. But he is somebody that I think definitely deserves a second chance. And then from the new school, I would say Fabio, which I know is crazy,
nice.
Is kind of a crazy take, but I think that he would be super underrated. And I know, I guess you can't really have a winner on a second chances, but so I'll change him. But I just think he's a very fun character, and I think that he is somebody that I just really want to see back at some point.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So I'll change him because I guess he won, so he can't be on a second chances. But I just wanted to say Fabio.
Nice.
I will follow up your weird choice with another weird choice from my old school one, and it's a first boot, and I'm going with Marisa from Samoa, who's the only
Nice.
person that clocked Russell Hantz instantly and
Yeah.
got sent home for it. But obviously good at reading the game because look what he
Yeah.
needs to do.
I love that.
My male and female old school that I'm going to go with is going male all the way back to Borneo, Greg, who would have been great to see again. Female, Pearl Islands, Krista.
I have a second old school, but it's another female, so I'm just gonna substitute a second female
Sure.
for my male and say T-Bird.
Makes
Love
sense.
T-Bird.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't do a female for the old school. I would say Katie from Palau.
Nice.
Good one.
All right, going into new school players, I would say for males, someone I shared exact birthday with, who I had met in Challenge Mania in Atlanta, Davey Rickenbacker.
That's a good one.
And female, someone that played, the audience is going to know what I'm going to say here, but someone that played extremely young and that I'd love to see a new development in her game, Julia from Korong.
Would love Julia for Julia to come back. I would say for new school for men, my number one would probably be Christian Vicky. I have a very big suspicion that he is actually going to be on 50. So I'm actually not going to choose him because I think that this is in this fictitious, season, it's coming after 50, so he will not be eligible for second chances. So I would say Devin Pinto.
Nice.
For my guy. And then for my woman, I would probably want to say, who do I want? Natalie,
nice.
from 37. Natalie
Bolton.
Natalie Cole, yeah, not Natalie Bolton. Sorry.
Bolton's a good option, though.
Yeah.
I didn't intend to do first boots, but my mind is slow, and we've had this person on the show, so I'm going to go with David Sampson, because before I knew he played Survivor. He appears on a sports podcast I like. Ran a baseball team, very analytical thinker. I think he could do a lot better coming back, not on a disaster tribe, and not going after the giant person instantly, like he did with Garrett.
Yeah.
And I'm just biased because he came on our show and was fun to talk to. But for a woman, I'm going to go with Lauren O'Connell. I don't know why it took me that long to think of her. She's like one of my favorite one-timers because Kelly Wentworth is tied for my favorite player. So
that's a great one. Lauren O'Connell is a great one.
Her and Victoria, either one. Or both.
Love.
And then moving into the new era.
Jesse.
Jesse. Nice.
I have to think about the other one.
Franny and Omer.
Ooh, nice. Good one.
Yeah. Those are good ones. I am going to say...
I have a prediction for Brett, so I want to see if I'm right.
I mean, I'm assuming for the female, you're right.
You're saying Genevieve, right?
No, I'm saying Sydney.
I forgot about that. I'm going to say Genevieve.
The most robbed player in the new era, in Survivor history, needs to be redeemed.
You were even from preseason, because you're both Canadian, such a huge Genevieve fan.
Yes, I am.
I'm taking that pick then. Jesse and Genevieve are my two.
Nice.
I also want to give a runner-up to Andy. I also think that Andy's a big one, and I would love to see Andy back. But yeah, I don't know.
So
I'm not thinking about it. Andy and Omer is a really, really hard choice.
I'm gonna complete Operation Italy here and say Sydney and Sam.
Sam's also great. Me and a friend of mine went to the 47 Bryson win in Chicago, and a lot of that cast was there. Sam's so nice. Genevieve's so nice. Met Rachel as we were walking out of the building. But
yeah, they're a very, very, very nice cast. I would say a lot of the new eras are just really happy and excited people.
yeah. I love that we had back-to-back seasons of like 45 who's always online hanging out together all the time, and then 46 Twitter beefing after their season.
Yeah, that was really funny. Very,
That's a
very
great
funny juxtaposition.
from season to
It
season.
was really good contrast.
All right, well, that was fun. Thanks so much, Tegwyth, for coming on today. Can you tell our audience where they can find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can, if you just look up my name, Tegwyth, I'll be there. On Instagram, my handle is just @Tegwyth, but on Twitter, on Twitter, you can follow me. I don't tweet a lot. I'm not very quippy with my keyboard. I'm more a yapper. So, but on TikTok, you can find me. I'm just I'm at Survivor_simulation. But again, if you look up my name, I'll be there. And then for the rest of the season, I'm doing my own podcast on Sundays. With Survivor Now podcast. Nice. That's on Sundays at 8 p.m. called Survivor Social. And This is my last season with them, sadly. But then you can catch me in the summer and next season on The Specialists.
Nice. With Phil and it used to be Alexa. It's Will now, right?
Will, yeah.
Okay. I haven't listened as much the past couple seasons. I love them. I know it used to be Alexa and it changed, but
I met Alexa at the 41 premiere party in Manhattan. And
I think I've heard she's really nice.
Yeah, she is. Nice. And Phil and I have tweeted back and forth quite a bit as two OG Michelle fans.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for the invite. It was so much fun chatting.
And also be sure to, for the audience, check out, in addition to this episode, Roundtable Talk, our Traders podcast is going to be back as soon as I get back from Alaska. And whenever they drop the cast review, cast photos, New Generation Challenge podcast with myself and TT is going to be back on for the Challenge 41. Got a couple Survivor players making the move over to that show, which I can't wait for, especially based on something I talked about on this channel, on this show. And then
Bruce. Ending the night we're recording this because they did a two-night finale for some reason.
Yeah.
My schedule.
So check out the end of the season with Pit Stop Pals, and they'll be continuing to go. And then we'll have another announcement regarding a new host pretty soon on this channel.
We have a new show coming to Reality Realm. But with that being said, everyone grab your torches and head back to camp. Bye.
Good night.